Hey all, and welcome back to Fuzzy Ducksy Gaming. So today I'm releasing my revised SoulWeaver build. This is an end game build with best in slot gear in the majority of the cases and enchantments, mounts, companions. First build I brought out is still 100% viable, but it's better more maybe for an intermediate level player. If you're looking to do Lair of the Mad Mage, then you're going to need this build. So as a bonus at the end of it, I did complete Lair of the Mad Mage yesterday on my SoulWeaver pretty comfortably. So I figured out a few decent tactics to use at the bosses, which I will come to at the end of the video. I would recommend sticking through the whole thing for the build because, you know, there might be things you're not aware of when building your healer. Also, most of the things I'm going to talk about are going to be relative to all healer classes. So even if you don't have a warlock, it might be worth watching the video just to get an idea of how everything works. So if we start with race, I am a human. The reason I am a human is because Dragonborns are so ugly, I can't bring myself to play them. My cleric is a Dragonborn, that's all I can take. I go for human just because I like the look of it. You can see the bonuses when you pick your character. If you think you want a particular one, go for it. There's not really a wrong choice. I would just pick the one that you like the look of. And then in terms of stats, I personally think you should put all your points in dexterity and wisdom. Wisdom's a must because it's outgoing healing. And then it's really possibly up to you. You could go magic damage if you want a bit of a DPS increase. I've gone for critical severity and movement speed. Movement speed always helps. And dexterity gives me more crit severity. And we're going to be hitting a lot of crit heals with this build. So it actually really helps to just increase that a little bit. So if we move on to the gear. When you're building your SoulWeaver and pretty much any healing build, you just want to look for gear that's got power and crit. That's what you want. You also want to look for bonuses that either give you damage, power, or again, critical chance. So my headpiece, there is one that I haven't had drop yet that gives you an extra 1500 crit and reduces your armor pen, I think, by 2000. I can't actually slot it yet if I had it because I've not quite got enough armor pen. But that's the helmet that I think is best in slot for a healer. Failing that, Koi for the Spires Guild, 5% extra damage in undermounting. SoulWeaver's damage is quite low in general. So I think any extra damage helps for mimics in the main dungeon. I'm running Gurdon's Defense as my chest piece, which gives me 1500 power extra at the cost of minus 2500 defense. As you can see, my defense is overcapped anyway, so it's not an issue. For my arms, I've got crash guards. They give you 250 power for each player in your team. And as I'm mainly using this character to run Lair of the Mad Mage, so I'm always going to have a team of 5. And for the boots, I'm running Gurtank's booties at the moment. I'm still looking at these because there's lots of different boots that you could probably choose. I've just gone with this because it gives me 200 power for each enemy I'm engaged with. So it's helpful for AoE, bosses, it gives a tiny power boost, but I think I'm going to be looking for something else for my boots. For rings, ignore the bonus. I've literally picked these rings because they've got almost 7,000 critical strike. These are both from the Seal Store. And they're not bad. Combined, they give me 6% extra damage to my daily, which I'm using on most mimic phases, so that's quite good. For my artifact set, really, I've just gone for getting as many stats as I can. So I've looked for anything with crit, hit points, and wisdom on it. And this fit the bill. It's got everything on it. You could, if you wanted 5% outgoing heals, go to Tiamat set, but because we're really trying to stack crit, it's difficult for us to hit all of our caps without using some of the new high-level gear. So I'd recommend these two items 100%. For my shirt, I'm using the Ebony Stained Restoration shirt. A, it's got 1700 crit on it and combat advantage. B, it gives you a 3% damage increase when your stamina is over 75%. And I don't whip around very much on my SoulWeaver. I tend to be close to the action, very rarely need to move other than out of a red attack. And the trousers are exactly the same, but they make you take 3% less damage. Again, it's really helpful because with this build, you will take very close to the damage that the tank does. You'll take way more damage than the DPS because the way it works, you need to be in the action and you need to have clear view of every player. So you are going to be in the thick of it. But with the build, you'll see we get so much self-healing and defense that actually we don't go down. I didn't die in our LoMM run yesterday. I didn't die in the one I did today. And it's a good job, because if we die, we lose all our soul sparks. So a death for the healer, especially in any of the bosses, is pretty much game over. And then if we touch on the artifacts, I'm just looking to balance power and crit out, basically. So we got Venom Coated Knives for accuracy, armor, pen, and crit, because they're all things that I need. Trobian's Ring I've got for power, and then the other two are just ones I had on my DPS build for Mob 15, but they have both got critical strike on them. I'll be looking to get probably the music box and Staff of Flowers, but at the moment they're just ridiculously expensive. I'm not spending the money on them. And then weapon set, you ideally want Alabaster. I think it gives the best bonuses for healers. Like Mountaineer set is garbage, because you've got to be so far away you lose combat advantage. Also, all of our healing, well, our only AoE heal, you have to be close to people to get it to proc. So Mountaineer set is a no-no. Burnish set isn't much good for us either, because we don't take a huge amount of damage. Because we're constantly healing, our damage gets offset and it doesn't seem to proc. I haven't got the full set, so I don't benefit from the set bonus anyway. But the set bonus on these, just so you can have a look. Although you've probably all got them. Everyone seems to have these other than me. So if we inspect, that wasn't a dig. I'm not sore at all about it. So at the start of combat, your power and crit will be increased by 1%. This is literally perfect for us. Like most classes, like, oh, crit, no, not that great. For us, it's awesome. In bosses, for the first minute, we get an extra 5% power and crit. And then for any other AoE fight, however many enemies there are, that's the bonus that we get. So this, I'm really looking forward to getting my offhand, because it's going to make a massive difference. Then for modifications, at the moment, I've got power. Definitely want crit severity. But these, it all depends on how you balance your stats, which I'll come to now before we move on. I'll quickly mention weapon enchant, 100 million % Vorpal. I know I said in that previous video that you might want to try a Holy, which does work for AoE heals, but this build is building towards crit, so Vorpal is 100% needed. It's also really good for our actual damage as well, because we need to get that wherever we can. And then for defense, at the moment I'm running Bark Shield. I've tried loads of different ones. This seems to work the best. None of them are amazing, so you just pick what one you think helps you the best. I don't think there's a particular best in slot for that. And then for kits, again, it's going to depend how you need to balance your stats, but I have gone power in mine. Only reason I've gone power is because one of my characters has got a minus 75% commission to make these, so I can make them really cheap. So what I'm going to do now is just go through, before we go on, just to help people understand the build a bit better, I just want to go through the relationship with crit and power for a healer. Now, I'm not going to take any credit for this. It was figured out mainly from the comment a dev made that actually you don't get crit by getting 66k as a healer. Crit is related to power. If you stack power way above your crit, you'll massively be affected by your crit chance. And people had noticed, people were starting to think that Warlocks didn't crit, because people were doing 66k crit to get your damage, and then they were stacking up to about 180k power. And when you look at the formula, it actually equals pretty much 0 crit chance other than the base 5% that you get. So I saw this formula on one of Cali Gold's videos. I'd been working kind of quite tirelessly on preview trying to work it out. I came to a similar one. I thought it was actually a bit harsher, but now I've looked at his formula, tested it quite a lot. It seems to be almost bang on. And the formula that they put on, which I'll display on the screen, is your critical hit stat, which is, mine is 117,000 at the moment. It procs up to about 121 in combat. So it's 121,000 crit, and I need to take 50,000 off of that. So that gives me 71,000. You then divide that by your power, times it by 100, and that's your critical chance percentage. So I haven't got a calculator, but if I had, say, 122 crit, that's going to give me 52k left over. So 72k left over. Divide that by 153, it's going to be around 46, 47%, which I'm perfectly happy with. I do need to try and build a bit more crit, so I can get to that 50%. But it means sacrificing power at this stage, and I don't want to because I think I can add crit here and there without lowering my power. So that's why when you build your character, you definitely need way more than 80, 90k crit. I think what I did to start with while I was building my character up was I had him at about 110k crit, I think, and about 125k power, something like that. And that gave me about a 45% chance, and it worked really well. It worked much better than pushing power up and then having crit lower. What you'll notice as well, which you'll see when we come onto the companions, is adding crit doesn't really cost us power in many places. There's a few areas it costs us a little bit of power, but mainly we're sacrificing stats that most people are over capped on. So a lot of people might have 80k armor pen. They might have 80k accuracy. They could have, 80k awareness. Just because the gear that they've got that they want to run because they need specific gear on a class has got those stats on it. We're more flexible with our gear. We just need power and crit. Doesn't really matter. We don't need specific gear because there aren't any for healers. There's no, this gear gives you 3% outgoing healing. It's all damage related perks. So bear that formula in mind when you're building your character. And then basically you need to tweak it from there. So we've now gone through the gear and we've gone through the critical chance calculation. So we'll move on to boons. Also, actually, I'll quickly just say enchantments. Again, it's going to be about what you need to do to balance your crit ratio. So I've got mainly brutals with a couple of radiants slotted in. In terms of my defensive ones, I'll be honest, I haven't really looked at these because I'm healing myself so much, I rarely die. I think I have 315k hit points, which is probably more than I need. So what I may do is drop some of the radiance and get some stats that actually boost up my deflect and crit avoidance, because I think that's quite important for this build because we're kind of in the thick of it. So now we'll move on to the boons. So in regards to your campaign boons, as we said before, crit, power, health. That's what you want to go for on every level. Then I take movement speed because I don't like being slower than everyone else. And when you get in a group that rushes and everyone's got that movement speed and you don't, as a healer, this kind of causes issues. Yes, they shouldn't run off, but people do. And I get it. If someone's completed the dungeon 40 times and you're joining an experienced group, you've all done it, why not rush through? I take companion influence, doesn't do a lot, only adds a few hundred, but it adds it to every stat and you get more than what you would get for just one individual thing here. I have got accuracy on here because I was lacking at one point, I'm not anymore. I would go combat advantage. And then here, no brainer, crit severity, outgoing healing. And master boon, which I think really helps a tank, is blessed resilience. You can pick another one if you like, that's the one I'll run with. Stronghold, power 100% as our bonus. I've gone hit points because I'm over capped on defense. We don't have the other two boons. Utility, yeah, mount speed is what I'm going for. So we'll move over to the mounts. I still need to look at these insignia bonuses because I haven't changed these since I realised you had to really stack into crit. The only one I've introduced is Berserker's Rage. So there might be some insignia bonuses that give crit chance or crit strike or increase that. So I need to look at that. I'm only going to take them if they're like a constant. I'm not going to take the mount bonus, for example, because it only procs for like 10 seconds every minute when you use your mount power. So I've got Artificer's Persuasion just because it's a nice cooldown reduction. It's just one of those things that you can work into your rotation to reduce cooldowns. This is more from a DPS side because we don't have many encounters that actually have a cooldown. Depending what you slot, most of the time it's going to be Soul Spark based encounters. Gladiator's Guile for the movement speed. Shepherd's Devotion for teammates movement speed. Berserker's Rage I like. So basically when I'm full on action points or over 90%, I get 2.5k crit. When I'm below that, I get 2.5k deflection. I've picked this because I'm well under cap on deflection and crit. We can't get enough crit basically. Keep going for it. And then the last one we've got is Oppressor's Reprieve, which I really like. This is probably my favourite mount bonus, which is whenever you're stunned, knocked or rooted, you are healed for 5% of your maximum hit points over 5 seconds. I like this. This works really well. And in the new dungeon, you're constantly getting bombarded with knocks, stuns, roots. And this procs for fun, procs all the time. So in terms of the actual insignias, another reason I've picked some of these is because you can slot dominance and skill in them. So I don't want too many skill because I don't need them. I want to mainly slot dominance, which is why I've gone for a lot of these. Obviously, these are all legendary. Reason being is because I did loads and loads of prep in mod 15, bought loads of vigor insignias, getting ready for this mod. I haven't spent like tens and 20 millions of AD on this. I was buying green insignias for 3k, I was buying blues for 500, and I was buying purples for about 60k. So in terms of mounts, I'm running Lion as obviously I've got a few legendary mounts on this character. These are just a nice to have. So I've got the Aureole Armament for the combat power, which gives you a nice little overshield. Dominant Force, which is 10k power, but anything like 5k power, 5k crit, 10k crit, whatever you've got, power or crit, you'll be able to work that in. And then obviously the legendary movement speed. Again, if you've not got it, it doesn't matter, just whatever the fastest movement speed you've got. So then if we move on to companions. So these cost a lot because they're not companions you would have used in mod 15. So there's equivalents to these, but realistically, these are the 5 companions you want. There's only 5 companions that give 10% outgoing healing, and it turns out that clerics and warlocks can slot all 5 of them. Other options would be like power or crit. So Deep Crow, for example, is fairly cheap and is a 60k power boost, so it's a good alternative. But these are the 5 best in slot companions, and these are what you should be aiming for, even if you do it bit by bit. So we've got, he's not a sellsword, I don't know why it's called that. We've got Rebel Mercenary, Polar Bear, Neverwinter Guard, Quickling, and Radiant Stone of Allure. Quickling I bought for literally next to nothing in mod 15. I bought like 4 of them. I've sold 3 of them for $1 million. I don't know what they go for now, but there was a stage where they were going absolutely crazy. I don't know where you get these from. Maybe they were from a limited like contest or something. Yeah, so they are about $1 million. So I personally would not pay 1 million AD for a green companion. He's an offense slot anyway. That's where I'd probably get the Deep Crow in. If you get him to legendary or even just buy the epic one, it's 6k power. It's not as good as 10% outgoing healing, but there's no way I'll pay that for a green companion. I just refuse. If you want to, by all means do it. I just couldn't bring myself to do that. So let's just quickly check the other ones. The other ones last time I checked were not too bad to at least get in rare, and you can build them up as you go along. So if we look at Neverwinter Guard, let's look rare. Oh, he's got expensive. He was next to nothing when the mod dropped down in mod 15. Let's have a look at purple. Okay, so that's not too bad actually. 890 is still a lot, so you might actually be better off getting the blue. Yeah, you would be just cheaper getting the blue and paying to upgrade him. He's expensive, which I'm very surprised about because he seems to drop quite a lot out of chests and stuff. Let's check Rebel Mercenary. You can't get him in rare. Epic, that's ridiculous. Uncommon. Yeah, so again, you'd have to buy him in green. So it's expensive and it cost me money, even though I bought the companions cheap. Like you can see, at the time I could only get him in green. No, I did get him in epic, but there's a couple like the Quickling and the Radiant Stone of Allure at the time. I could only get them in green, so I've had to pay $250 to blue, $500 to purple, and then $1 million to legendary. So you're talking $2 million a companion. So this is, because this is my main character, I really, really like the way SoulWeaver plays, and I want to get it to work, which is why I'm spending a ridiculous amount of AD on it. But if you can't afford those companions, honestly, I'd probably pick another healing class, because this class needs all the help it can get at the moment. My hope is that if it ever gets buffed, this character is going to absolutely kick butt. At the moment, she just makes do. So they're the companions. I'm just running the gear that you get from the expeditions. because I like having balanced stats because we need to get close quarters. I run 1 profane for critical strike and the rest empowered. And then I've obviously got my 3 bondings, which I've got at rank 15. I run precision as the enhancement, which is 2k crit. Oh no, that's 2k crit avoidance. I don't want that. Oh no, it increases my critical strike and a companion's crit avoidance. That looks wrong. Anyway, that's because my crit is the lower end of that equation that we talked about earlier. It could be if your crit was too high, you'd pick the one that gives you 2k power. And these are active quite a lot of the time if you look at your buff bar. So I've gone through mounts, companions, boons, and the character. So the next section we're going to go through is powers, builds, and what to use. So the powers have not really changed that much since the last video. There's just a few things that I've noticed that I thought I knew that I didn't. The first one would be that Harrow Storm, I thought only the damage part of it multi-procced. So if you put Harrow Storm down and another one and another one and another one around you, they all proc and they all cause damage and they actually all heal as well. So my AoE loadout, Harrow Storm 100%. Then I'll run Shatter Spark and I'll actually run Curse Bite. Pillar of Power is good-ish because it gives a damage boost and an outgoing healing boost, but the healing magnitude on it is next to nothing. I get about, I think it's about 3,000 a tick, which is nothing. And in an AoE fight, you're moving so quickly, people don't benefit from Pillar of Power. In some boss scenarios, I will slot it, but generally, as much as I like it, 'cause it looks cool and it's always been a Warlock staple, I don't use it. Rave Shadow, if you watch my video about, taking the piss out of SoulWeavers, don't ever, ever, ever touch this. Warlock's Bargain I do use, because A, it cleanses, and B, it pushes our healing up, so we get 10% outgoing healing, and it heals as well. It's not a huge magnitude, but it's one of them where if you need to heal someone who's got a lot of hit points, you hit Warlock's Bargain, you get a healing boost, they get a little bit of healing from that power, and you're then in a better position to heal them. So our at-wills, I don't know why it keeps resetting all my at-wills, and I don't know why. So our at-wills are Essence Defiler as our standard spam, hit people, injure people, because we get 2 soul sparks at the end of the combo. It's a bit glitchy, doesn't always seem to work. And then this, which is pretty much our go-to heal that we're going to use all the time, is Soul Reconstruction. And then we've gone through what I would use for an AoE loadout in terms of abilities. So in terms of dailies, a Cursed Soul is probably my favourite daily in the game, just because I really like the look of it. You kind of push souls in, or draw them out, and then push them back in again, and you get 2 lots of damage. If this crits, you're probably looking at 300k damage per person that's around, and it hits as many people as it can get in that AoE effect. The next one depends. Most of the time on non-dangerous dungeons, I'll run Soul Pact. If there's any risk that I'll die, I will never ever use that. So the next one would be, if it's single target, even though it's more of an AoE, I'll use Tyrannical Curse. Because Brood of Hadar just doesn't do enough damage. And then in terms of our features, this has always been overlooked by me, but look at that. 2,500 crit strike and 10% movement speed. Yeah, I'm having that. So the next one you've got to look at is kind of what one benefits you the best. Essence Drain, nah, that's not going to make or break anything. That's not bad, but unless you're using Harrow Storm, we're not going to curse. Each soul spot using a power will heal. That's probably the one you want to slot. There's another one, which is whenever a target affected by a curse dies, you generate a soul spark and heal. But as I say, we're not necessarily going to be constantly cursing enemies. So I think it's definitely this one to go along with Shadow Walk. In terms of our feats, this 100% is a must. You will not be successful in this build in endgame content without taking this. So this is the one that makes Essence Drain have a 15-second cooldown, but when you use it, you get 15 soul sparks, which is half of your bar filled. Imagine the cleric had a button they could press when they run out of divinity and they get half their divinity back. Next one, you've either got awareness and critical avoidance is increased, which actually is not the worst, but transfusion tactics is really good. So this basically, when you activate powers that directly heal you, it also heals allies near you for 15% of that heal. What I do need to look at and try and test, but I'm struggling to find the environment and people to do it with, is I've got tactical enchantments, which I forgot to mention, slotted in all of my utility enchantments, because we cannot go down as a SoulWeaver. Yes, we might get more stats from Dark Enchants, but because of the mechanics and the way we lose all our soul sparks if we go to near death, we can't go down. So we need to get as much healing as we can from ourselves. So what I need to test is whether my incoming healing final heal number is what then heals 15% of my allies. But either way, regardless of whether it does or doesn't, it's a really nice heal over time. And then that goes along with Linger and Sustain. Again, this is a really, really good heal over time. Again, it's sort of 4, 5, 6k. So each time your powers heal an ally or yourself, they're granted Linger and Sustain, and it heals 150 magnitude for 6 seconds. Next one is from the Brink. So as your life diminishes, you gain up to 10% incoming healing. I picked this because the other option is rubbish, but I've noticed from the Brink actually it is useful because, for example, the second boss in Lair of the Mad Mage, the Boar Worm, there are times where you might get a little bit low, and any extra healing incoming you can get is going to help. You don't want people to go down, but if a tank goes down or the DPS goes down, they can scroll. There's no negative benefit to them other than the 10% decrease that they get in their stats. Whereas for us, if we've just used our Essence of Power Essence Drain and we go down, we come up with no soul sparks and we have to wait 15 seconds to generate any more quickly. Our only option is to spam at wills and hope we get enough soul sparks in time. But again, we need someone to target. No one to target, no soul sparks. Then the last one is, well, there's no choice. Consuming action is garbage. Consuming a lesser curse grants 2 action points to you and allies. 2 action points when you need 1,000 to get a daily. No. So powers that consume a soul spark generate 10% more action points. That's more like it. It's not amazing, but it's better. And you will notice the build up. Like if you switch from this to your DPS Paragon without this feat, you do notice that it is slower to get your dailies up. So what we'll do, I will travel to somewhere where I can actually kill some enemies, and then we will run through a few rotations. Then what I will do is end the build part of the video, and I will go on to commentate on the footage from Lair of the Mad Mage. So we'll now go on to look at some rotations. Well, they're not really rotations as a SoulWeaver, they're spamming powers. So I was going to go to the Stronghold, but I'll go here, and we'll start using our encounter. So basically what you do is you spam Harrow Storm, and you'll see it does overlap quite nicely. Look at the healing I'm getting, I'm not going down at all. And actually these enemies in this high end heroic encounter even do a little bit of damage. And then basically you've just got to make sure that every now and again when you can, you're proccing your tab button. So then we'll go back over here and we'll do it again. I'll try not to do too much damage. I just want to try and keep this guy alive. He's running away from a Harrow Storm. Do you not know how to play this game? And then you can use your Soul Reconstruction to top people off. It's an awesome, awesome power. Soul Reconstruction got me through Lair of the Mad Mage, and you'll see from the footage. So then again, we just got to make sure if we get a bit low that we remember to hit our tab button. I know I was a bit slack on it there. And then we've got Shatter Spark if we need it. And that's kind of all I do for AoE. You will probably notice you don't need to use Shatter Spark that much. If you're finding you do need extra healing, by all means slot Pillar of Power instead of Curse Bite. But it actually helps quite a lot, Curse Bite. It doesn't do huge damage, but it can mean a few seconds off in a lot of the ad phases. So we're going to leave this one because this is one where it takes about 20 minutes for the last 4 scarecrows to spawn. But that is the AoE encounter. So what we're going to do now is talk about the single target or boss encounters. Now what I need to explain is, as you'll see from the footage that I showed from Lair of the Mad Mage, this is not a character or a class that's going to get through with an unskilled group in Lair of the Mad Mage. So if you get in a group that's just gung-ho, they don't care where they stand, they crowd the tank, they don't get in a proper position to avoid getting damaged, you're going to struggle. It's not like the cleric where, oh, they're dying, they've just got themselves into trouble, I'll pop an intercession or I'll pop a bastion that crits and it does 260k and everyone's back to full health. Same with the paladin. They give massive overshield so people can be careless. So now we'll move on to the guide part in regards to Lair of the Mad Mage. So as I said, I don't have footage of the first fight because I didn't start recording until after we completed that. But as you can see here, I've popped up the stats of when we got to Trobriand. There's no other healers involved. 100% went through. As you can see, we haven't had a team wipe because there's some of us without downs. In fact, most of those deaths came from the Boarworm, with me not quite understanding the mechanics, which I do now. So in regards to Arctoria, it's quite an easy fight for a healer, but your team have to be aware, and you need to tell them before you go in, that when someone gets cocooned, they all need to move out the way. Reason being is if the tank gets cocooned, we need soul reconstruction to be able to get that tank up to full health. It's really horrible to aim. You'll aim your cursor at someone and randomly the game will point it to the person next to them, even if you're bang on. I don't know if PC players have macros that can aim at players or the targeting's a bit better, but on console, especially on Xbox that I'm on, it is garbage. So that's the first thing you need to tell people is when someone gets cocooned, move out the way. Even if it means you've got to stop DPS in the boss, get them out the way. And then what you're going to do on a cocoon, the powers that I ran at the time, I ran Killing Flames for some DPS, I ran Shatter Spark for an instant heal, and then I run Warlock's Bargain just to give us a little bit more health, and it gives a little bit of a heal to the person that's in the cocoon. And it's basically fairly simple. You do the same tactics, healer and tank take the green corner, you do your business, everyone takes care of their mimics, you go back into the middle and you just look out for the cocoon. When someone's cocooned, your team move out the way, you move in, Warlock's Bargain, Soul Reconstruction, and they'll be healed so quickly. Like there'll be 2 or 3, 4 seconds to spare. In fact, you'll probably heal them and then walk off and leave them. It's really, really easy. And then all you need to make sure that you're doing is you're using your tab button every 15 seconds to make sure you don't run out of soul sparks. If your team get a bit stuck and they end up in butterflies or in the like roots that she puts up, that's what your Shatter Spark's for. The general heal that you should be using is Soul Reconstruction, and you should be concentrating on the tank. If they're keeping aggro properly, they're going to take the majority of the damage on this boss fight. So keep Soul Reconstruction on them, and then just keep them healed and keep the group healed with Shatter Spark. It's a really, really simple fight. So now we're going to move on to the Boarworm fight. The powers you want to slot for this encounter, you only need Shatter Spark, you need to use Soul Reconstruction, which is your at will, and Pillar of Power helps. The other encounter is totally up to you. Whatever you like to use, you can slot something that does some damage. Any artifact that you have that helps with healing, use that. And if possible, see if the tank's got Sigil of the Paladin. Most I've noticed run this anyway, but it massively helps. Now, the way you're going to complete this fight is totally different to the way that people have been doing it on the videos and in streams that I've watched. Don't all group up. Yes, grouping up lessens that hypothermia type mechanic, but then all of you are getting bombarded by boulders, the golems are getting all over the place. The way to complete this fight, first phase, when there's no golems, all 5 of you spread out but stay close enough together that you're in reach of each other. The reason you stay spread out is so that it's easy for you to kite the rocks that fall from the sky. And then what the healer does is he looks out for that hypothermia mechanic. So me, as a Scourge Warlock, as a SoulWeaver, I'm looking out for that hypothermia mechanic. As soon as I see that, the other people are moving away from him, I'm moving close, and then I'm using Soul Reconstruction on him for that whole time he's got that mechanic. And it's easily enough to out-heal it. Because of our incoming healing, we're making sure that we're also full health as well. As long as you don't get more than a few charges in the first round, it's easy to complete. You should do it quite comfortably. When it comes to the second round, we get a benefit in that there are golems and we can get our soul sparks back by using them. The bad point is there are golems. They can hit you, they can stun you, they can stop you healing. So this is where a really good tank comes into play. So your tank basically needs to make sure he groups up those golems and keeps the aggro on him. If possible, you want to kill a few of these, depending on how many there are. Just make sure you leave a few alive for the next phase so that you don't end up with a third boulder phase. If you kill all of the golems, you're going to end up having to do another boulder phase because there's nothing to drain the ballworm's power. So for this section, as you can see, we did it wrong again because I just grouped up with the tank. It actually works okay. It's just the fact that realistically someone's going to die from that hypothermia mechanic and it's a wasted scroll. So again, you want to spread out, get a little bit further away from the tank this time, kite the boulders, and the tank will keep all those golems aggroed. The healer splits his time between the tank and the other characters, and it's exactly the same mechanic again. When someone gets that hypothermia mechanic, he moves away from the team, the warlock heals them with soul reconstruction. That's the only thing you need to use. When you get the tank, you're probably going to need to drop Pillar of Power, because they're going to be taking damage from hypothermia and they're also going to be taking damage from the golems. It's quite easy though because the targeting of your soul reconstruction isn't affected by golems, so you can just stand 5, 10, 15 feet away and spam soul reconstruction. I don't know if it's glitched, but it seems to regen some soul sparks as it goes along, so it's actually really easy to almost spam this constantly for the 15 seconds that you need to wait for soul sparks. And then you just, when your tab mechanic comes up, you hit it and then you go back into your soul reconstruction. And then that's that phase over. You then go and carry on the ballworm as normal, keep the team topped up in health, kill the ballworm, and then exit the arena. So you'll see from this footage from the Trobriand fight that this is actually a fairly simple fight for a warlock healer, as long as the tank is good and keeps aggro. If the tank keeps aggro and keeps Trobriand looking away from everyone else, your job is made really easy. You basically stick with the tank and heal him with soul reconstruction when he needs it. You've got Shatter Spark where you can move over and heal the rest of the DPS. The way this works best is if the tank is always on Trobriand. Even when the scorpions come out, the tank is there to keep Trobriand away from those scorpions. The DPS can then all focus on the scorpions and melt them down quickly. So it's at that stage, if you get more than one scorpion, you will leave the tank and go away to the DPS, drop a couple of heals with always one eye back on the tank. If they're a decent tank, they're going to be able to take 9 or 10 hits from Trobriand before they start to need an emergency heal. And they'll have their own stones of health as well that they can pop in an emergency. So as you can see, this fight's fairly straightforward and it just rotates around and around. You do exactly the same thing. Heal the tank with soul reconstruction, break away, help the group with scorpions. That's where you'd use your dailies, your artifacts, your mount powers to get them down as quickly as you can. And then it all comes down to the pylon phase and just making sure your team have got enough DPS to get through that. That's the one thing that the warlock really lacks, is some sort of utility that can reduce a lot of damage or give overshields. Obviously we have powers that reduce damage, but they're at the expense of our own damage. So if you ran any of those, you would get wiped out of that pylon stage, and then the rest of the fight, although they should be able to cope without a healer, it makes it a bit more difficult. So that's kind of it for the Man Mage part of the video. But if you do have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. I always try and respond to every single one. You know, I'm not exactly huge, so I've got time to respond to everyone's comments. But until next time, thank you for watching.